What is going on, people? Leo here from Creative Tech Lab. We are back today with another video, and we're talking how to set up your RX100 for your cinematic settings when you're out and you're shooting video. Again, welcome to Creative Tech Lab. My name is Leo. This is the YouTube channel to accompany our website, Creative Tech Lab, where we talk about all things creative, mainly right now on the channel in terms of mobile video creation, some iMovie tips I do a lot of as well, video editing clips, audio engineering, music production, all that's up on the site and will be on the channel as well. So please go ahead and hit the notification button and let's get into it. So, what are we talking about today? The Sony RX100, particularly the Mark VI, which has the updated menus. If you've seen any of my other videos before, you've seen the cinematic video that I did, or attempt at a cinematic video, I should say, that I did of the Amalfi Coast, and then I recently put up the Royalton video, which did really well. That one had over 1,000 views thus far, my biggest video just thus far. So thank you to everybody that's watched that. So these are just a couple of settings that I found that helps me go a little bit faster. I did a little bit of research on how to use the camera. If it is that you've picked up this camera and it's your first time using a pro grade camera, even though it's a point and shoot, the menus and everything are almost identical to what they use on like the A7 III or on the A9. So it's almost like a Sony Alpha camera packed into this little bit of a package, and this is why I love this camera so much. Review coming out soon, but let's jump into the different menu settings that I have set up here. Put the camera down and let's turn it on and let's talk about it. So all right, so the first thing that I normally have set up here, let's see here. All right, so your first camera menu thing that you come into, the vast majority of that stuff is going to be for your stills. We're not going into that. This is about video. This is primarily what I use this camera for. So we're going to jump on over here to the second menu screen, and the first thing we're going to look at is your file formats. Now, I typically use either one of two different file formats, either the XAVC S 4K or the HD. The 4K is for my 24p, typically for my 24p, 100 megabits per second. That's anything that I'm doing live action with talking and stuff. Most of the videos that I shoot on YouTube are in 4K and then downscale to 1080p, and the main reason I do that is just to get the best possible image, especially since we're using a smaller sensor here, the best possible image that I could get for my 1080p. And then for everything else that I shoot, my B-roll and all that stuff is going to be in that same file format in the HD, and I am doing that with the highest megabits that I could get, because I do put it into Final Cut and color grade. Even when I was just using iMovie, we'll be pushing the colors around and you just get a way better image and a way better look. So that is my 120 frames per second is typically what I'm shooting B-roll at, but I also use the 60 frames per second, and you see here there is two different options for your 60 frames per second. I always choose the highest file format that I could get, so I could get the best image there. All right, so those are the file formats that we have set there. The one thing I kind of want to point out though is, so a lot of these things you could set up on movie mode as well, but I typically shoot out of either manual or just on the top button here is going to be your MR button, your memory recall. And this is how I switch back and forth from that 4K or that 1080p for the different situations. So typically, I won't go into how to set that up there. I have a video I'll link up here on how to set your memory recall on the Sony RX100, but these are just set up for the main situations that I typically run into. So the first one is with the 4K, 24 frames per second, and my shutter speed is set to 50 W frame rate, and then the next one is the HD with the 120 shutter frame set to 250. My picture profile is also set in this. All this is in that video, you can look at that. And then I normally have like a nighttime one, which is 30 frames per second. That way, if I do encounter low light, it's a much smaller sensor than you would on a full frame or even an APS-C camera. So low light can get a little tricky. If I'm doing low light, I'm doing that in 4K to get the best resolution that I can. And the reason I do 30 instead of 24 is that I could slow it down slightly to get a dramatic look, a little bit more deliberate in my movements. And then every time I put a memory card in the phone, I typically go ahead and set those as well too if I'm moving back and forth. If I'm in a lower light situation and I want to do 60 frames per second and get some real slow-mo with a lower shutter speed to get let some more lighting, I could do that there. But that's the way I manage going in between the different file formats and the different frame rates or whatever. I do that with my memory settings. So my camera is almost exclusively in MR because I'm choosing one of those memory settings to set up, and then I'm using these custom buttons to do everything else. High frame rate settings, I never really do anything more than 120 frames per second, so I don't mess around with that too much, but you can shoot up to 960 frames per second, which is kind of insane slow motion there. Let's see your image size. Audio recording, we definitely have on. I have my microphone level set to regular. Wind noise reduction, so some people use this, I don't. I want the camera to capture as much as possible. One of the main things that most people see, you could see I have my microphone set up. I've been shooting with the microphone recently. There is no microphone input on this mic, so you're just stuck with the onboard mics. I want the microphones though to capture as much as possible, and then in post, if I need to reduce any background noise or anything, I'm gonna do that there. So my wind noise there, I have that set to off. I don't do anything with marker settings or marker display or anything like that. Movie with shutter on, that's if you're in movie mode. Steady shutter I have on, that's mainly, those are for stills. Zoom speed, I have my zoom speed set to fast. You could set it to normal if you need to. The only time I go back to normal is if I need to do a dolly zoom, which I did a dolly zoom effect the other day, showing you how to do that in iMovie. But typically if I'm zooming, I need that to zoom fast. My zoom ring function, I'll show you how to set this in a little bit in the custom buttons as well, but I have that set to quick. You can also do step if you'd like to, and then in step you see here, as I'm turning the ring on the camera, you see that it's just going there to the popular focal lengths that you'd want there, either 24 frames, 28, 35, 70, so on and so forth. But I typically just have mine on quick because I might want to be somewhere in between those different frame rates there. Display button, so I have my display button there on the monitor set up there, and you will see how that looks there. My zebra settings, I have my zebra settings set up to 100. If I'm shooting, I'm typically shooting in either S-Log if it's a real contrasty scene, or more than likely I'm shooting in HLG, which 100 on the zebra level seems to work pretty well for me. 95 can also work as well. My grid lines I have up to rule of thirds. I'm still working on learning my composition and all that stuff there. So rule of thirds grids is what I do there, and just try and move that around. Don't do anything with my exposure, set guide there. Live view from display, settings effect on, whatever, I don't use that. Auto review I have off, that's mainly for stills as well. All right, and then let's get into the custom keys, which is like the main last thing that we need to set up for our cinematic settings to make things kind of work around. My custom keys I have set in my stills menu, and those just kind of translate, everything just follows the custom, because I kind of use the camera same way that I'm using for stills than I am for movie modes, and that just kind of might be the way that I've learned the camera thus far. And primarily, again, I'm shooting video, so it's just good for me to have everything there at once. So my control ring, you could have the control ring set up for different things. I have my control ring set up for zoom, so as I mentioned before, you could zoom in and out using the control ring. I find that better than using the thing up here. If I have two hands on the camera, I can just go boom and zoom out there. C button is this button, but down here is your trash button. I have that set to my ISO, and the main reason I have that set to my ISO is as far as your exposure triangle, my aperture is always set to as wide as it could possibly be. So you guys know that on the RX100 Mark 6, it's from 2.8 to 4.5 depending on your focal length. I'm almost just exclusively in whatever the camera tells me that aperture could be. And then my shutter speed is also locked as well because it's double my frame rate. So the only thing I really have to adjust exposure on the fly is my ISO. So that's why I have that just down here on this main custom button, the C button, as it's called here, but it's a trash button. So when it is that you're shooting, I could just go ahead, hit that C button, bump ISO up, bump ISO down, and I love to do it that way. Let's go back in here. That's the C button. The center button I have as the focus area. So while it is that you're shooting, you could go here. Typically I have mine set in zone, and then you see here you get a little button there. You can move that around if you need to move and change focus, or you could just kind of tap around there and change focus if you need to. Let's get back here. Left button. So left button is going to be this one right here. I do kind of change around picture profiles on the fly. Again, typically I'm in picture profile. What is my picture profile 10, which I have set to HLG2, which is in between the two hyperlog gammas. I've really come to like this one. I don't really understand how to grade S-Log very well. I'm still learning on the whole color grading thing, but HLG2 is good for me as I'm learning on how to grade there. My color mode should be set to Rec 709. That's just easy in Final Cut Pro if you ever had that particular issue there. But yeah, as far as sometimes I might get into a situation where I was like, oh yeah, this is really bright outside. It is a lot of shadows like at sunset or sunrise, and I might want to go and hit up S-Log. I also have a custom picture profile on PP3, which I think might be EOS HD. I found it on the internet. I'm not sure. It just said it was good for Canon colors. I won't get into the settings on that just in case it is EOS HD. I don't want to give anything away. And then my picture profile 2 is actually for my low light situation. That one is from Joshio. Shout out to Joshio. So if I do ever need to switch picture profiles on the fly, I don't need to go into the menu. I could just do that there. Top button, let's go there. Back to custom keys. That's left, right. My display button up top here gives me my different displays. So typically I want to know, is the camera level? They have the level there. If you hit that, these are all your exposure settings and everything that you need up on the screen there. And then you could pull all that up with the live camera, and then eventually you could also get your histogram, and that's one of the things I'm using, the histogram a lot more times than I am the meter. So that's your top button there. Let me get back into the menu and get back into custom keys. So the bottom button, this one's not set, but this is how you kind of change your your aperture and stuff on the fly. So let's say you did take a picture or you did want to change something. These two buttons here, this button here can switch in between your shutter speed and your aperture if you need to change those for whatever reasons, if you're breaking any rules. And then lastly, the right button I actually have set to Gamma Display Assist, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But if you are using S-Log or S-Log 2 or 3, or if you are using your Hyperlog Gamma, sometimes the picture profile looks really flat. If you want to, you could turn this on, and this would give you more of an idea of what it looks like in Rec 709. So those are the 3 custom buttons that I have set up there. All right, so those are the main things in terms of your custom buttons. And now when it is that you're on the fly and you know where all these different things are, you really move at a completely different speed. But when it is that you're in like run and gun situations, which you're probably more than likely going to be with this camera because it's something that fits into your pocket, you're not doing a big setup, you're shooting family stuff, you're shooting something that you just want to capture on the fly, these little settings help you just move around a lot faster, so you're not fumbling around and missing the moments as it happens. Other things that you want to look at when it is on your road, we did touch on your Gamma Display Assist. This is how you set that up in the menu here if you need to change it. If you didn't choose to put that as one of your custom keys, there's a lot of other things that you could do there. Monitor brightness I have set to manual, so I can always go into here and set my monitor value. When I'm in sunny situations, sometimes I tend to turn it up. So yeah, those are my things that I have changed on the camera, a little bit of custom keys and how I move around when it is that I'm shooting. Again, if you're seeing my Amalfi video, again, link down below, and the Royalton video, link down below as well. That's kind of how I capture those things on the fly. Look out for going to Bali and Singapore next, so that will be even better as I continue to learn the camera. So if this video helped you out in any way, shape or form in learning how to move around your Sony RX100 menus, please go ahead, drop it a like. Again, hit the subscribe button because there's more content like this to come. On the RX100, I'll probably do an entire big review since I've had it for an entire year now, and there's a lot of noise that came out when the camera first came out, which I can dispel a lot of those. If you're thinking about getting the camera, spoiler alert, it is an awesome camera and is well worth the $1,200 cost that they have of it. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. I will catch you in the next one. And then also let me know down in the comments how you have your camera set up, or if you've never gone through these menus before, how would you set them up now that you've seen this video? And I will catch you in the next video, shot on the RX100 instead of on the iPhone. Lights will be set up probably back in the other room that you guys seen before with the other background, and I will see you soon. Peace.